Okay, we've talked about putting our staves together. What you're after in the end is a slick side that no burrs will cut anybody, and you want it to look pretty. And this is the yellow pine. It's got all different patterns and everything in it. So this is where we're headed today, is how to clean the outside and inside and level it and round it before you start making your bands, okay? All right, this is a finished product. Now, the first thing we got to do is clean these ridges, because none of your boards are going to be perfect. And what we've got here is just an old antique 2x4 with a hole drilled in it and a dowel to go through the hole to keep your bucket from moving while you're pulling on it. And you see these little ridges where your boards meet, and they're tight, but they're not quite level. So one thing they used, and I use some, is a draw knife to just cut those ridges down, okay? So it levels it. You want to pull off all those little burrs, okay? And you're rounding it. But the best thing I found to use is a turpentine puller. And we went over this in earlier videos. Turpentine pullers were used to cut the face of the trees to get the resin to run out. But they also have a nice flat shoulder here that you can sharpen really good so that you can work that ridge off. Then you're going to sand it, of course. But this cuts the first part of the ridges off so that it's fairly level. So you can then go back and just sand over a level point. You have to be careful, because if you grab some of that wood, it'll pull it and tear a spot in it. Just keep going around, and this bar keeps your bucket from coming off. Get you something for your scraps to fall in underneath you. See how that levels it? So you can go over it with a sandpaper. What you're doing is rounding the edges. Once you get the outside fairly circular level sanded, the inside where you're going to cut your crows, which is your groove here that's going to hold your bottom in, this needs to be leveled also. And so what I found, they used a scorp, but this turpentine tool called a puller is excellent for this work. It's heavy duty, it's thick, it's not thin like scorps. It doesn't give, and it's got these curved edges where are used for working the grooves on the trees. And so that works good inside, where you can round and level your staves inside. You see there? You want to cut off those grooves inside just like you did outside. And see, that turpentine puller just cuts it right off. And you want to keep doing that all the way around until you have a circular bottom in the bucket that's level. People didn't know that coopers worked this hard back then. I tell you, it's some of the hardest work I've ever done if you do it the way they did it. But you keep working it with that tool It's going to round up your staves inside and level them up. Then you're going to take another tool, a scorp. Once you get it fairly rounded, we have a round shave that you're going to come back in there and clean it out. That's going to give you a complete rounded surface. And if these tools are not so sharp that you are afraid of them, they won't work. Now we've sanded the bucket. We've took the puller and pulled it level inside. We're going to take this, just clean it out. Okay? And that rounds your bucket inside and out. Now you're ready for a band. Okay, and these scorps you have to keep them really sharp where you're afraid they'll cut you or they won't do anything. That rounds it, and of course you're going to go all the way up and also do the top side before you get through. We'll clean it out also, okay? Now, so it's got it rounded and ready for a band. You don't want to band it before you do this because then your band won't fit it tight. You want to clean it up good first, about the size you're going to have it. Because if you put a band on it, make it, and put it on it before that, and then clean it, then you're taking wood off, and it takes very little wood to cause that band to loosen up. So. About 32, you want a couple inches, about a couple inches longer than the bucket is in case something goes wrong. Then you're going to measure off your tie strap, which is what I use. You can get it at the hardware store, and works really good. We're just going to take some 10 snips and cut it off. You want to dice your ears a little bit like that, so it doesn't cut you, and round it with a file, or I use a grinder. So it's not sharp. And you want it where it'll just come around here and meet with a little extra to go, okay? Now I've taken this to my grinder and rounded the edges because we don't want it to cut anybody on the buckets. And you can take a file if you want to do it the old way and round that edge on that band. And then we're going to lay it up here on an 1850 Zamble. Come about 1.5 inches, 2 inches in, and you see that round hole right there in your anvil. That's what it's for, is to take that punch, go right in the center of your band, so it gives you a hole, okay, for your rivets to go in. And flatten that out. Okay, now I go with my bands around like this. Okay, so it just depends on which way you do it, which way you lap it. You're going to take your band, put it up here on your anvil, come to one side, which is going to be your wide side, you know, going down your bucket. It's wider at the bottom, at the top than it is the bottom. So you've got to swell this. You just hit it about 1/4 inch at the bottom on that anvil with a Cooper's hammer, okay? And it's flat on that end and narrow. And you want to keep beating, you'll start seeing it curl up. That's rounding it. See it moving up as you beat 1/2 of the band, 1/4 of the band on the bottom. You're actually swelling it. See it rolling up and getting wider at the bottom. Makes it wider at the bottom and rounds it. You go on your bucket. Now, so you're going to take your band and lay it not down low, but up top. You want to get it far enough in there. I have to bend it some. Get up here above the top. That's what you want. You want it tight where when you start driving it down, it comes really tight against the bottom here. And so you actually want to measure it where it just will go on there. And you're going to take up just a teeny tiny bit after that when you get ready to drill your hole. And mark it or hold it. Okay, so you've marked it, you've come back here and drilled another hole for your rivet to match up into. Okay, and it's 1/4 inch. And you take these 1/4 inch brad rivets, the shorter ones, probably not a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch long. And you're going to push it through that hole, get your band, hold it down there, and you're going to brad. Straighten up your band. You see that in there and that out there. All right. And that's going to put your band together, and see it's bigger at the bottom than it is at the top, or vice versa on the bucket. This will be driven from the bottom, so the wide part will be going up the slant of the bucket. Unless you're making a reverse bucket, which it be the opposite direction. Okay?